Welcome to Artistic Adventures. We've got an exciting new video series to start. We're going to be customizing a Live doll. And if you've never seen one, I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. And we're going to do some fairy ears, a mohair wig, and the face up all in this video. So here we go. So anyway, this has been a really long week for me. I did a lot of crafty work, and two of them are these customized blythes that I just finished, and I really am pleased with how they both turned out. They, I think, are just really cute, and I was shocked at how the customization changes them. I understand why people want a custom blythe. So this is something that I've been kind of working on in the evenings, and I really I'm really enjoying it. I've learned a lot, and hopefully, these little dolls will get even better as I continue to make them. But anyway, I wanted to show you those because I've been working on them, and now I want to show you this doll that I found at a thrift store. This is a Live doll, and she is fully jointed. I just was shocked at how nice this doll is. The body is pretty high quality. She turns at the waist, and that the waist kind of moves around, and she's got like the double knee joint, just like some of the ball jointed dolls. She's got feet that are jointed, and also they're not too small because I hate those little tiny feet. And just was really shocked. I bought her for $3. She's a little bit taller than a Monster High doll, as you can kind of see here. Maybe uh, about a head taller, I guess. And her body doesn't have that sort of tortured curve of the back. And she's also got a little bit more of a bosom than the Monster High doll. So I'm just so excited to work with her. I think this could be really great. She's also got real eyes inset, and she's got this wig cap. They all came with these it's like a painted on hairdo, sort of short pixie hairdo. There you can see it a little bit better. And then these wig caps that they could exchange. And this doll, Sophie, was like I guess, the hairdresser, and she used to, I guess, make wigs for the other girls or fix their hair. So this wig is like sewn in, and I'm going to make use of it. I'm going to make a wig. This is a picture of the original Live dolls. They were all like friends and hung out together and changed their hair together, I guess. But I've kind of become fascinated with these, and I've ordered some more off of eBay. You can get them on eBay. And if you're looking for a nice little starter ball jointed doll and don't have $100, this is a nice one. Really nice quality body. They were known for their quality bodies. So I'm going to start with taking her makeup off with acetone as usual, just like we do for the Monster High dolls. And like I said, she does have the real eyes. And when I get some of the ones I've ordered from eBay, what I want to do is maybe try even changing out some of the eyes. I'll have to open up her head to do that, do a little brain surgery. But anyway, it's really could be fun. This doll's pretty dirty, so I'm having to clean her face as well as get the paint off of her, and trying really not to get too much into the eyes. I'm not really sure what the material is. Not really. I don't really think it's glass. It's probably plastic, but anyway, I'm just trying to be a little bit careful. So this is a little different than the Monster High, where we have to draw the eyes in, and that was one of the reasons that I wanted to try to do the face up along with the other stuff. She does have nice lips. There's a little turn up at the corner there, but if you don't want to have her smiling, you could just not draw into that. And she has like this crease up here, and then another crease right over her eye. That I'm going to put some eyelashes on her at the end of the series, but I think the structure of her face lends to several different ways you could do the eyes, and that'll be interesting. I'm going to put some fairy ears on her, and that's a new technique I'll be sharing with you in this video. We're going to do several new techniques, so this will be pretty exciting, I think. We're going to make a mohair wig and use that wig cap. And we're also going to be doing some fairy wings. So for this wig cap, like I said, it's all stitched in. So to start with, we're just going to cut off the excess hair, and then we'll be able to just pull the threads through from the back. This is at least not having to deal with all that glue, and I hate that glue that's in the Monster High heads that holds the hair on. Oh, I hate that stuff. Anyway, so I'm just going along and trimming off the hair, and once I get all the hair trimmed off, then you'll just be able to use a sharp instrument like the point of your scissors, or like my little pointy tool that I have, and just pull the seams out from the back. These dolls originally had a little post on the inside of the wig that went into the doll's head. The doll has a little hole in the top of her head. This one has been removed apparently, or it wasn't original with this doll. I think at one point they stopped doing them. So here you can see I'm just using the points of my scissors and digging underneath those stitches and just pulling them out. And then you can just pull the hairs out with your fingers. So this part of it was a lot easier. And I'm kind of interested to make a wig using this wig cap instead of the way that I typically use them. I know some of the dolls that I'm buying on eBay do not have the wig cap, so we'll have to use the old technique. But this will be interesting. Now, one thing I did find after you take all the fibers out of the inside of the head, the wig cap really doesn't fit as snugly as it did before. It's a little bit loose. So that's just something I got to take into account for. You can see it just moves around a lot. But I still want to try to use it, so we're going to make use of it, and then I'll probably glue it down just to make sure, that it stays in the right place. Now, like I said, I am going to make fairy ears for her. So I'm going to use this Apoxie Sculpt to mold some long pointy ears on her, because I kind of want them to stick out from her hair. And want to really kind of go over the top with this doll, do some interesting things. And since I think that the ears are going to maybe stick up so that the cap won't fit, I'm going to mark on the cap where the ears are. And once we get the ears on, then we can trim it to be exactly right. So we'll just set that aside for now. But to show you what it's going to look like, I bought this mohair weft from a company because I wanted to do a wig for a Blythe doll. And I had enough left that I think I can make the wig for this doll too, because I really like the pink hair since I want to do a fairy. And we're just going to wind it around that top, but we're going to do that a little bit later on, because we've really got to get those ears on there, right? So this stuff's really easy to use. It's simple. You just, it's two parts. So you get a glob, you get two globs, one from each container, and you make sure they're pretty much the same amount. And you're supposed to wear gloves, and the only gloves like this that I had available at the time belonged to my husband, and as you can see, they just don't fit me. So I started trying to smush them together, because so there you see I've got two balls pretty much the same size. So I'm just going to work this together. This is not like the silicone mold material that we've used before, the easy mold, where you have a limited time. This stuff you can work with, I think it says, for about an hour before it sets, and you don't want to mess with it anymore. So we've got plenty of time to work on it, and we really needed it because this was a little bit harder than I thought it would be, and mainly because I kept getting down into the plastic of the ear itself, and then I would have to remold around it to the shape that I wanted. This stuff will stick to just about anything. It says glass, plastic, just really anything. So there are a lot of uses for it in crafting, and you can mold it with some tools like I'm using here. This is just a wooden tool that I have for polymer clay, but I kept digging down too far, and then I would hit the ear material of the original, of the doll, and then I'd have to start over and try to cover that up. So I kind of had an annoying time with this product, although I think it works pretty well. And when you want to smooth things, you just add a little water, and I put a little water on the end of the stick to help me smooth out. I'm just trying to make the sort of a ridge on the inside of the ear, and I was trying to mold it to kind of look like I don't know what a fairy ear really looks like, but mostly the thing that's going to be seen about these ears are the points because they'll be sticking out of the hair, or that's my idea anyway. So the bottom part is not really going to show that much. It's going to be covered up by the hair, so I wasn't as concerned that it didn't look exactly like an ear. The part where you see that's turned a little bit white, that's where I've added water, and it just sort of makes a slurry kind of material, and it ends up drying, with the rest of the product, so it's not a problem to have that. I think the main thing that I wanted to accomplish was not so much that the ears are perfectly shaped, but that they're the same size and length, and that they stick out from the head the same on both sides. Not that that has to happen that way, it's just the way I wanted it to happen. And I think in the end, I got them to look fairly similar on both sides, and I was happy that they ended up being, I'd say, pretty much the same size on both sides, and then also that they were sticking out from the head in the same direction and the same amount. One of the ears tended to want to flop over, but I found that if I laid the doll flat, that it stayed in shape, or even I could turn her upside down and, prop her up on something. So you can see that one ear there on the right, it tends to want to flop over, so I had a little bit of trouble getting that one to stand up. But in the end, they had to dry overnight, so in the end, I think it worked out good. And so now what I'm doing is I'm going to take the cap, and I'm going to trim off a little half circle here to be the place where the ears will sort of be able to to stick out. And I know that this is probably not enough, but I want to start small. That's my motto: always start small, and then you can get bigger. So I cut out this shape and tried it on, and of course it wasn't. So I just kept trimming small amounts at a time until I got it to where the cap would fit all the way down on the head and around the ears. So that's how I wanted it to look. And there's that with her fairy ears. Or I'm going to say fairy. I think elves have shorter ears. That's my theory anyway. So that part worked out. And now I'm going to go ahead and make the wig. And I just went around the bottom of the wig and put a row of that weft using the E6000. And you see where I had to go up over the ear. It makes it so that this is not a flat circle going around. And because I want it to get to that point so I can just wind the mohair around it, I'm going to go ahead and cut this off, this initial row that went around the bottom. And then I'm going to put a row just over that dip so that I can even this up, and then I can just make my rows go around and around the head. So you see what I'm saying? I want to go ahead and even that up right there. I'm going to put a row across there, just one piece, and cut it, and that'll make it even going around. And I did the same on the other side as well. And what I did was I was making this go around. I had to wait to let it dry because I didn't want to have the hair from the top row get attached to glue that was still wet on the row beneath it. And so I kind of had to play some games on my iPad while I was gluing this thing together. And this is just on me doing the same thing on the other side where I fill in that gap with a piece of the weft. I haven't ever worked with mohair in this type of setting before. Like I said, I did do a wig for a Blythe doll, but I think because this material is a little bit more wiry than the alpaca, it's better for the bigger dolls. I think it'll be okay for this doll because I want it to be a little bit wild. I want her hair to be a little bit, kind of out of control. But I think the alpaca works better on the smaller dolls because it lays flatter, it's silkier. This is a little bit more wiry and kind of has, a tendency to want to stick up and not smooth down on these smaller places. So now I've finished those gaps that I talked about, and now it sort of looks like that it's sort of even all the way around, as you can see. So now I can just start winding the mohair around, and I'm leaving gaps of about 1/4 of an inch between each of the weft rows. And it worked out to where I had like just enough material. I was lucky. I was glad I got enough. I think I bought 2 feet, so I had enough for a Blythe wig and a Live doll wig. So I don't know if any of you guys have heard of these dolls or seen these dolls. They came out in 2009, and then I think the company deleted them in 2012. I think they were around for about 3 years. And I don't know, they just didn't make it. I think it's the power of Barbie. Yeah. You can see now what I'm doing. I'm just holding it. Like I'll sit and hold it there till that dries, and then I'll make another row and sit and hold it until that dries. So I don't show all of that on the video. I think I just showed another row maybe. And this is where we ended up at the very top. That was the last row. And so I've got that little bit of the weft sewing showing. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking this remaining piece and I'm just folding it over and over and over. So I want to get a really thick bundle of hair. So that little tiny piece is all I had left. And I saved that much because I thought I might have to stick some hair somewhere, in a bald spot, but I ended up not having to, so that was really good. So I'm just pinching this together, and then I'm going to cut it so that it's very even across the end. See, very even. And now we're going to put a glob of glue right into that part, or it's the hole left by the final row of weft. I'm just really pressing those fibers down into that glob to make sure they're all in there, and then I'm going to let it dry. And I actually let that dry overnight as well. So the next day I came in and it did really well. So what you want to do then is just peel those layers of the mohair down, and you want to leave sort of a little hole there. And that's just the top. That's going to be the top of the head. And that way that covers up the wefts. All right, so we've got our dried ears that also cured overnight. And now I'm going to just take some really fine sandpaper. This is 3M, pretty fine grit. I think it's 500 or 600 grit. It's the same thing I use on my Blythe dolls. And I just tried to sand down the places that were a little bit rough or uneven on the ears. Once I got that done, I washed the face and the ears really good. And now I'm going to use the Liquitex Matte Medium with a brush instead of airbrush because of her eyes. This is one thing that's, a little different. You can't really it's hard to use an airbrush with those eyes like that because you don't want to get those matte. You want those to stay nice and glossy. So I let that dry. I think I put 2 coats of the matte medium down and let them dry. Then I mixed up some paint, the color to match her skin tone, and we're going to paint the ears. Did you think I was going to leave them gray? Or then they look more like horns, right? Yeah, so now we're just going to paint them to look as much like her skin tone as possible. And any areas where I get the where I get the paint on her face, I'm trying to get those off. I don't want it to show on her face. I want it to just be on the ears. So I was using my cuticle stick with some water on it. I also used a paintbrush, just a wet paintbrush to help clean up some of those areas. I don't really care if I get it on her head because that's going to be under the hair. But as far as her face goes, I want the paint off of it. I used 3 coats of that paint to get it to the point where the gray did not show through and it looked fairly like her skin. So we've got our little fairy ears there. And so what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and do her face up. So originally I thought I might not do all of this in one video, but here's the thing. Without the eye part, the face up is not that long, because to me, that's the hardest part is the eyes, drawing the eyes. So I felt like a whole video doing a face up without the eyes just wouldn't be a great video. And then I decided that the ears were really meant to be seen with the wig, so I wanted to do the wig. And it just ended up that I just decided to do all of this in one video. And I had a little bit over 2 hours of video film. And I was able to cut it down to, I think it's about 32 minutes. So this is a rather long video. But I like being able to do all of this in one video because it's like all of this sort of had to go together to look right, if you know what I mean. Like the ears alone are not great. The wig alone just looks like a ball of pink fluff. It's a little different than the alpaca hair where I usually do the wig on the doll, So this is, interesting, and I'm really enjoying working with a different doll. It's just so much more interesting to have a different face to work on. It's just, we tend to stick with Monster High and we do the same things over and over again. I am winging out her eye there a little bit, sort of like eyeliner, doing a wing, because I want her to have a little bit of that cat eye look. And I'm making her have a hooded look by using a brown pencil to draw in that crease over her eye. And that's not drawn in on the original doll, and I'll show you that in a minute. I'll compare the two. Also, I wanted her lips to not be that smiley. I want her to be a little bit more of a neutral expression. She's going to be a really elegant fairy. She's going to really be over the top. So I want her to not really be that smiley. So this is how she looks so far. I'm really happy with her face. The pastels and the pencils are really going on great. Even though I brushed on the matte medium, I really am happy with that. I'm not even going to have to add layers, which is great because I don't think that would work that good with brushing. So now I'm adding some pastels to color her cheeks and around the edges of her face. And I'm using a little bit of a brown color to do some contouring of her cheeks under that pink part that I put on. And I ended up actually taking off that right side. I didn't like the way it looked. And I'm putting pink over her eyelids. And then I'm putting some light blue over the crease. And also in the corners of her eyes around the nose, a little bit of the blue as a shadow. Similar to what I do usually with the Monster High dolls. And you notice with her eyebrows, I had them sort of go up, near the nose and down. Take a look at the difference in the eyebrows and how that gives her a different expression. And also just the way we did the crease on the eyes. It looks like completely different eyes. Makes them look smaller, but it's actually the same size eyes. I like that you can give them a little bit of a different expression. So now I'm doing a little bit of shading around the nose and the philtrum, and kind of redid that blush on that side of her face because I didn't like the way it looked. And also took a little bit of a light brown and shaded just a little bit under her eyes so that has a little bit more dimension to it. It's not quite so flat looking. I like to do that. Putting a little bit of blue in her ears as a shading. Who knows what color the inside of fairy ears really are? I think you can take your pick on colors. Artist choice. And I'm doing a little bit more blushing with some pink on the ears and around the face. Let's take another look beside the original doll. I just think it really has changed her whole look. I really like it. I really like this face a lot. And I'm going to be using some more of these dolls, I think. I mean, so far I'm liking it, and I like the body. It's not that tiny, tiny little waist and the tortured, arched back of the Monster High. This is a nice ball-jointed doll, you know. If you want a ball-jointed doll like this, go on eBay. They do have some. You get them for around $5 if you from the right people. And look for the ones that say or best offer. Like they'll want to sell 4 for, let's say, $40, and then you could go to them and say, if they say best offer, you can make an offer and do 30, and they might take it, or they might say, well, 35, Now what I'm doing is taking Scotch tape, and I'm going to cut out a shape of her eyeball and stick it to the actual eyeball. And I'm doing this because I'm going to spray her face with Mr. Super Clear outside, and I don't want to get anything on the shininess of her eye and make it look matte. Now, you say, well, you could have done this with the matte medium or whatever and used the airbrush, but there's no way I'm just going to do this that many times. It's a pain in the butt. All right, so I've got her eyes completely covered with Scotch tape. So I'm going to take her outside, put on my respirator, and I sprayed her about 3 times with Mr. Super Clear and got a nice matte finish on her face and her ears. And so that's our finished face up. Really like it. So now for the hair. So you can see that's how I want it positioned. And then the ears are going to stick through. So I am going to go ahead and glue this down because, like I said, it's too loose. It wouldn't stay on properly for us to be able to style it and have it stay in place. So I'm going to glue that on, let that set, and then I'm going to go swimming for a minute. And then I'll come back and work on cutting it and fixing the hair. Now, I usually don't fix the hair till right at the end. So what I'm doing to her hair right now is basic. I'm going to make her a wire crown, and that's going to fit really low down on her head. So what I'm going to show you here is me just sort of getting it to the point where I can work with it. We'll make the final styling at the very end. So I've cut the bangs some, and so like I'm saying with this mohair, it's really wiry, and it's a little bit stiffer, so it stands out. It doesn't lay down like the alpaca fiber does on these smaller dolls. So that's kind of an issue that you want to think about if you're thinking about using it. Now, I could have done a hairdo where I didn't cut bangs and maybe had like a center part or pulled it back or something like that. And that's something I may try in the future. But as far as the bangs, they're a little hard. Now, they're going to work for this doll because of the crown, because I'm going to press a crown down on it. And when we get to the end, I'll show you how it's kind of going to look. So basically all I'm doing now is just going around and putting curls in with my little 1/4 curling iron, and I'm doing them in all different directions. This hair curls really well, curls very easily, and it seems like it's going to stay in place. The alpaca fiber curls really well, but tends to fall out, and I usually have to hold it a lot longer than this. This is curling very quickly. I'm not having to hold it, and it seems like it's going to stay. We'll see, because she's going to go through a lot between now and the final thing. So now I'm taking my little pick tool and I'm separating the fibers and making her hair which is what I want to be a little wild. Now it's got that little bit of curl in it, so it looks a little bit finished, but it's going to be real floofy. And the main thing is that I want the ears to stick out of it. So just spent a lot of time floofing out all the curls to get the strands separated. And, we'll probably end up having to do some more near the end after we do her costume and everything. But I just wanted to give you an idea of how the wig's going to look, since this is a video about the wig, and not just leave you here with this pink fur ball sitting on her head, which is what it looks like, right? So I got to this point, and I spent probably another, 30 minutes futzing with it off camera. So here's our original doll, and I wanted you to see this before we show you this face. Look how different that is. I really love that. Also, you can see here how this is just a piece of trim that I put around her head and pinned down. You can see how that flattens down the bangs, and it's going to make her hair look okay in the end. But I did like the wildness of it there, as it comes out from under it. All right, so we did some interesting things. We got a new doll to work with. That's pretty cool. And in the next video, we're going to be working on her costume. And then a little bit later on, we're going to make some fairy wings. So those are kind of new things. So be sure and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Thanks, and bye.